Good evening, councillors, staff and ladies and gentlemen in the audience. Please be seated while Councillor Betts delivers the blessing. Thank you.
Almighty God, as we gather today for this council meeting, we pray that you would give us wisdom, give us insight, clarity of mind, and we pray that the decisions that we make would be for the well-being of the citizens of our great city. And we pray that our city would be characterised by people increasingly respecting each other as people, respecting each other's property and also our communal property, and respecting each other's roles in the community. And we pray that our city might be increasingly known as a city where people live by the golden rule, doing to one another as they would have others do unto them. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Before we begin, I will acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people and pay my respects to their elders, both past and present. Thank you. It is now 7 p.m. and I declare the meeting open. No announcement of visitors. Disclaimer. Members of the public are cautioned against taking any action on council decisions on items in which they may have an interest until such time as they've seen a copy of the minutes of the meeting or have been advised in writing by city staff. Thank you. Record of attendance. Councillor Dewhurst is an apology. Other than that, we are all here. Are there any disclosures of interest? No disclosures of interest. Announcements by presiding member. I've got a couple here, just a few. Firstly, I would like to thank Councillor Patterson and Councillor Dave Griffiths for their service to the city and wish them all the very best in their future endeavours, whatever they may be. And just wish them all the best on behalf of council. Secondly, I would like to congratulate the returning councillors, Councillor Adams, Councillor Dewhurst, who's not here, Deputy Mayor Hort and Councillor Zhang. Congratulations on your re-election. Well done to you all. And thirdly, I would like to welcome the new councillors, Councillor Ashwin, Councillor Islam and Councillor Lloyd. Welcome, and we all look forward to working with you all as we have been. Also would like to congratulate the City of Gosnells on its award for another award for Ghost Walks. It's a winner of the West Australian Heritage Awards 2023, and it's for the interpretation project. And the City of Gosnells Ghost Walks takes participants on an inclusive, immersive, performance-based experience. It shows sites of local and state heritage significance and tells the true stories of the area's early European settlers in an innovative and entertaining way. So congratulations, councillors, and to the director for this area, Director Blake, well done. She always gets the good things, doesn't she? I'd also like to congratulate Councillor Williamson on her passing her AICD. Well done to you, Councillor Williamson. And I'm also aware that Councillor Baynes and Councillor Zhang have both passed the AICD as well, but I don't have your certificate here, so sorry about that. But well done to you all anyway. Congratulations. And I think that's all I have at the minute, so we will move on. Reports of delegates. Councillor Betts, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Mayor and councillors, I attended the Armidale Gosnells Landcare Group meeting, AGM, on the 25th of November. And the committee was re-elected with no changes. So Pat Hart is again the chair, Greg Bremner vice, and Eunice Robinson the secretary, and Sanja Dondaj, I think is how you say it, is the treasurer. So the committee remains as is, and everyone seems to be very happily working together. And the meeting was full of praise for the work of the city at Mary Carroll Park. The bridges and the new toilets were very much appreciated. And also the Friends of Mary Carroll Park were very, very vocal about the lovely shed that we've built for them as part of that toilet facility there. And they were also full of praise for the work of Trish and Stuart, our council staff. I don't know their surnames, but I'm sure the relevant directors will be able to pass that on. And in the last financial year, the volunteers who assisted the Armidale Gosnells Landcare Group provided approximately $269,000 of volunteer labour. And they're working on 10 restoration sites across our city, as well as in Armidale. There's extra ones there. And they asked me to convey to you their sincere thanks for the $146,960 that the city contributed towards the Armidale Gosnells Land Care Group. So that's just a little report there. The meetings are very positive and very, everyone seems to be working really well together, and it's always a pleasure to attend those meetings. One further report is on the 19th of October, I attended the Rivers Regional Council meeting. It was the first in-person meeting we've had for a long, long time. The reason for that was that most of the councils, I was one of two councillors, weren't actually up for re-election, and so they thought they'd have one more meeting just in case some of these people weren't re-elected and some weren't recontesting and so on. But it was good to see everybody face to face, and it would appear that the first burn at the waste to energy plant is still scheduled for about middle of the year, sorry, middle of next year, I should say, and things are tracking reasonably well, and the move to the subsidiary is in process. Each of the councils now has agreed to that, including Armidale. That was the last one to do so. And apparently there's some hold up with, before we can actually close down Rivers Regional, there has to be an audit and there's some delay process with all of that. But it's for the tiny number of transactions that the Rivers Regional Council has, the cost of the audit is quite outrageous, to say the very least. But anyway, there's nothing much you can do about it, but that's perhaps one of the reasons we do need to move to a subsidiary. So that's all I have to report on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. And just to touch on what you've just said about Mary Carroll, I was down there today with the Minister for Environment, the Honourable Reece Whitby, as well as Chris Talentine, and they were admiring what's happened with the bridges and very much praising what's gone on down there, so that was good. Any further reports from delegates? Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to report that I attended the Switch Your Thinking, or the SEREG committee meeting on the 11th of October, and they have advanced with their logo and advertising. They've adopted a new logo which seems to represent more of what we do for Switch Your Thinking. We also have at the moment the Switch Your Thinking Business Awards open, so if you know of any businesses local or in other council areas that are showing innovation in sustainability or environment, then they can be nominated. We also accept that we're expanding the Rewards for Resident program, and we've had two exciting additions to that. We've had Foodie Bag, which is a food waste application, so that will be rolled out across all Switch Your Thinking member councils. And also Pleco Energy as well, so there will be discounts for our residents if they choose to use Pleco as a supplier. And I'd just really like to thank Councillor Adams for his support over the past 2 years, and look forward to continuing the work on Switch Your Thinking. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. No further? Nothing. Question time. Got the one question here from Mrs Tracy O'Neill from 217 Kenwick Road. Could you come forward, thank you?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What's the difference between a temporary development application and a regular development application, and why would you use a temporary one in place of a regular one?
I'll let the Director for Planning respond to that, Mr Terrelink, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Those two forms of approval are commonly used out in the Maddington-Kenwick strategic employment area, as you probably know. And the reason that they're used is because the rezoning of the land has been planned for quite a long time, and although it hasn't been finalised, there are many people out there that still want to go on with interim uses until they can do their ultimate development of their land. So the council adopted a policy some years ago so that it could contemplate giving temporary and interim development approvals, so that activities could be approved out there that don't fundamentally get in the way of the future structure plan. And then when the zoning comes through and is in place, people can then apply for their permanent and ongoing development, which might include the huge sheds and those kind of things, pay their development contributions and the road network gets finished and filled in as it's fully intended. So the temporary approvals are meant to be really a halfway house between the old zoning and the new zoning that's proposed.
Do you want to ask your second question?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I've actually missed a question. Can I slot another one in there? It's real quick and it relates to exactly what we're saying.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Do these temporary approvals get sent out for community consultation? Like, do I have the opportunity to speak against or for a development in my area?
I believe it's a radius, but I will let the director say that in a more technical way.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It depends on the activity that's being proposed. Because they're typically low-key industrial uses in a future industrial zone, they may not attract community advertising. But if there was something that was unusual in the zone that was proposed, for example, if there was a place of worship proposed in that future area, then places of worship do attract a large consultation radius, so people would be advised.
And your last question, thank you.
Yep, and how long can a property operate under a temporary approval? Is that a couple of years, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When the council started to give temporary approvals, they were often for the 5-year period. But as we're getting what we hope is closer to the new zoning being approved, the temporary approvals are becoming shorter and shorter in duration because we're trying to time their expiry with the adoption of the new zoning.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. There are no questions. We'll move on to public statement time. The first public statement is from Chi Mok from 7 Club Avenue, Daglish, and it's regarding item number 13 on page 20 of the agenda, relating to 13.2.3. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors. Happy Halloween. Hope you all go home and find lots of candies and chocolates. My name is Chi Mok. I am a town planner at Studio CFM. I am working on behalf of Wellington Parklands, and I'm here to speak about the proposed amendment to the Maddington Homestead Outline Development Plan. I've got 3 comments. Firstly, is with regards to the heritage designation on the existing ODP. It's being changed as heritage is not a listed land use under the existing town planning scheme number 6 and the proposed town planning scheme number 24. In order to normalise the ODP to council's town planning scheme, the use of special use zone is proposed to enable the additional land uses of caretaker dwelling and restaurant cafe at the restored homestead and outbuilding allotment. These proposed land uses would ensure the reuse of the restored homestead and outbuilding, and it has received in principle support by the Heritage Council of Western Australia. Second point, I'd like to reiterate that the local development plan prepared over the Heritage Council has been prepared based on a list of design matters identified by the Heritage Council of Western Australia as important relationship to the restored Maddington Park homestead and outbuilding. This list is represented under the agenda heading of Draft Local Development Plan, and I'm not going to read it out again. Lastly, with regards to the subheading Residential Development and Public Open Space, I'd like to just let Council know that Golden Assurance is in the process of negotiating with a cafe operator to occupy the restored Maddington Park homestead and outbuilding. The restored Maddington Park homestead and outbuilding will also include the establishment of landscaping and other public furnitures on site. Once a cafe operator has been successfully appointed, This would enable the reuse of the Bennington Park homestead and outbuilding. This would be an asset to the community, as well as the new specialist disability accommodation participants who will be living there. This new space would provide the SDA participants with an additional space to entertain family and friends who come to visit them.
I'll ask you to summarise up because your 3 minutes has gone, so I'll just get you to summarise briefly.
Okay. In summary, we look forward to Council support for this proposed Bennington Park ODP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next public statement is from Associate Professor Khurshid Alam from 15 Boxley Place, Langford, and it's regarding item number 13 on page 4 of the agenda.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Associate Professor Khurshid Alam. My statement in regards to the tavern liquor shop in Langford expansion. The bottle shop in 72 Langford Avenue is creating serious problems, particularly contributing to negative law and order situation relating alcoholism of drunk people in the adjacent areas. The drunks litter around the areas, urinate, block traffic flow standing in the middle of the Langford Avenue, break nearby houses, dance over the rooftop of the parked cars and damage the cars. So these are some examples of the harm it creates. So expansion of this bottle shop will further attract more such people and increase these problems further in this area. So I urge every councillor, including Honourable Mayor, to stop this proposed expansion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The next public statement is from Daniel Newman of Maddington, and it's on item number 13.2.3 on page 20 of the agenda.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm speaking on the amendment for the Maddington Homestead ODP. I wanted to speak to Council today because I think it's really important that we bring some clarity to this issue. It's quite important for the community to understand this. The state of the homestead has been relatively disgusting for the last 10 years at least, and the community are completely outraged at the way that this facility has been left to fall apart. This is a pain point for our community, but we're really glad that something is finally happening. The work that's being done towards that precinct is great, but I can't agree that any of it has been done without the community getting outraged, unfortunately, and the direction from the WA Heritage Council. This is the only facility in the whole state that has ever had a direction under the Act to repair their works. But I'm glad that it's finally progressing because our community doesn't benefit from demolition by neglect. Now, we all know that the best way to save heritage buildings is through adaptive reuse, and we completely support that. The idea of popping down to this precinct for a coffee, having some breakfast overlooking the river is a long-held dream of mine and a lot of people in the community. But the use as a medical centre and an office isn't really going to be the right level of amenity in this area. There are lots of medical centres just a few hundred metres away, and the technology required in these facilities is probably not well met in a heritage precinct. So I support the officer's recommendation to remove the medical centre and the office from the ODP. This is recommendation 3 of 4 in your pages. What I do object to is the construction of 8 units along the driveway of the homestead between the house and Burslem Drive. You can see this quite clearly in Appendix 13.2.3 Echo. And the officer's report actually notes that there will be quite a high volume of noise to the people that are living in these places because of its proximity to Burslem Drive. This development, the 8 units, is totally inappropriate to build within the heritage curtilage. It does not add to the heritage precinct. It doesn't provide any context to the site. Now, we're not NIMBYs here. The rest of the development looks entirely appropriate in the context. It's just those 8 units that are immediately in front of the homestead. If Council approves these 8 units, or any residential development within the heritage curtilage, it will be a blight on the precinct. To hide a beautiful and historic precinct behind an ugly bunch of houses will be a disservice to the City of Gosnells. And councillors, I ask you to consider this. Will your decision tonight leave a legacy of endurance, or will you be able to point to this development as a crowning glory in the Maddington area? Or will it just be another medical centre stuck behind a bunch of units for old people? Thank you.
Moving on, there are no more public statements, so we're moving on to the confirmation of the minutes. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Adams to move that and Deputy Mayor Hort to second that. Are there any questions? No. Councillors, will you please cast your vote? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. Moving on to item 8, receiving of petitions and presentations. Are there any? No, thank you, councillors. Applications for leave of absence. I have one from Councillor Baines, who seeks a leave of absence from the council for the period of 14th the 11th to the 14th the 11th, which just includes the one OCM for personal reasons. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Good to move that, and Councillor Deputy Mayor Hort to second that. Councillors, please cast your vote on that. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Are there any other applications for leave of absence? No, thank you. There are no questions of which due notice has been given. No need to bring anything forward, no reports. So we'll move on to the first item, which is 13.1.1, the Major Projects Progress Report. Can I get a mover for this? Thank you, Councillor Baines, seconded by Councillor Betts. Are there any questions or debate on this item? No, thank you, councillors. Will you please cast your vote? Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to 13.2.1, the development application for the tavern and liquor store additions to existing building, 72 Lot 101 Langford Avenue, Langford. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Good, seconded by Councillor Baines. Councillor Good, do you have any debate on questions on this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I'm very much in support of this particular development for the tavern and liquor store. I think from 1980, when this was first done, the improvements that looks here that's proposed, I think will make a significant added value. I do understand, of course, people's concerns about antisocial behaviour and drunken behaviour, any other sort of behaviour, but that's a police matter and something which must always be raised. One thing I have of note is that most licensees, can't say all, but most licensees are very mindful and respectful of how they treat their own premises and how they treat their clientele. In terms of you serving people who are intoxicated, well, they don't. They're required not to. And if people get out of behaviour, they're required to behave or you get ejected. In my own personal experience, I actually grew up in hotels. Grew up in hotels and liquor stores around me. I was surrounded by them. Back in those days, there were some quite rowdy places. And I could name them, but I won't for the sake of boring you all. But I just think this is a good development for Langford. I think this will actually improve the area, and the surveillance and the owner's genuine desire to improve his business actually makes added values. So I'm very supportive, and but I do note the concern of the speaker regarding it, but I think there will actually be improvements, and hopefully people will get the idea that a tavern is actually a nice place to take your family, enjoy the facilities, and of course with the bottle shop, excellent. So if it adds value to the area, I'm in support of it. Thank you.
A question for Director of Planning, and you've touched on it with the surveillance, and the design of this looks to me as though it is going to have an increase in surveillance of the area. So could you just give us a little bit of information on what that might mean for the community as far as their issues with worrying about antisocial behaviour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The refurbishment includes a new parking area out the back, which is an area of the tavern that was previously out of view of the street. So there'll be more activity in that space. And there'll also be lighting added to the car park as well, which is particularly important at night time. The main concern from a technical perspective there is making sure that that's shrouded appropriately and it doesn't spill onto neighbouring properties, but that can be looked after. In terms of the complaint that has come forward, those concerns, I think they'd be best addressed directly with liquor licensing, because they can be back in touch with the licensee to see how they are handling their obligations for responsible service of alcohol and management of the property.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me, a question first. It's obviously a really important point around the antisocial behaviour that exists there at the moment, and it's obviously debatable whether or not that would increase with this development. Is that something that we can consider in a planning application, in a development application, that there might be antisocial behaviour as a result of alcohol? And is it defendable in the State Administrative Tribunal if the applicant decided to take us to the next step in this application?
Get a technical response on that from the Director. Thank you. Mr. Terrell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In fact, Deputy Mayor Hort goes to a good point. It's not a relevant planning consideration, because if the management personnel of the building changed, those issues would also change. The planning approval is about the structure and the land use and the car park and making sure that integrates well with that commercial hub, which it does. It's the management that is potentially at issue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we cannot consider the antisocial behaviour that occurs as a result of this application when considering the development application. It is not within the realm of something that we can consider. Our hands are tied on that matter as far as I'm concerned, and I believe that's what the Director has said. So this has my utmost sympathy, and I too share concerns about what happens in that area and what happens around many taverns and liquor stores in our city, but it is not something that we can consider when considering this application. So with that aside, I think this is an exciting development for Langford. Any investment in this particular shopping centre is a step in the right direction. I look forward to hopefully this activating more of that space and more investors coming along and knowing Langford's open for business and Langford welcomes these kinds of developments in that shopping precinct. So with that in mind, Madam Mayor, I'm in support.
Deputy Mayor. Councillor Betts, thank you.
Madam Mayor and councillors, just in regards to this development, I think the fact that this development is only increasing the bottle shop very marginally in terms of floor space, the antisocial issue will actually not be impacted by this development. And in fact, the fact that there's going to be more dining, which one would assume is intended to attract families and groups of people rather than drinkers, this could actually change the dynamic of that establishment to some extent. I'm certainly well aware of the issues of excessive consumption of alcohol and all the social problems that causes. I was on the Education and Health Standing Committee of the Parliament when we did a very big inquiry into drugs and alcohol, and there's no question about it. The evidence is pretty clear that the more bottle shops you have in a region, the greater the social problems that arise from alcohol. But the fact that there is a bottle shop here already, it's actually not going to change that dynamic. And the fact that it's not going to be a huge Dan Murphy type of warehouse thing, but it's just simply a marginally increased floor space, I think it'd be very unlikely to actually have a significant impact on that antisocial issue that a small group of people appear to be causing there in Langford. So I just thought I'd put that on the record that it's only a marginal increase in the size of the bottle shop and therefore is very unlikely to actually make a significant difference in that social issue. Thank you.
I'll just enter in as well, and I agree with both of what you've just said. I think the owner is doing everything they can to improve the amenity there and to improve what happens within that building, and I think it'll be a fantastic outcome for Langford in itself to have something that looks appealing and will attract the right personnel, the right clients to that vicinity. So I'll be supporting the officer's recommendation. Are there any further Councillor Ashwin, I believe you've got a proposed amendment.
Yes, I propose an amendment to 3V, which states areas to be irrigated, to have included the landscaping plan should make every effort to retain native trees in the front setback area to the satisfaction of the city. Yes, there's a couple of mature trees there. I went down today and had a look, and I can see that one of the trees would need to be removed to give access to the new driveway to the bottle shop. However, I believe the tree at the entry and the one further along at the exit could be retained if they used innovative planning to keep them as they are.
Seek a seconder for Ms Councillor Williamson's happy to second that. Would you now like to speak further to your amendment?
I have nothing further other than that.
Okay. Councillor Williamson? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I support Councillor Ashwin's amendment. I think it is definitely preferable to retain trees where we can. Just noting that this isn't a enforceable requirement that they must retain each of the trees, but if there is a possible way to do it within the landscaping plan, I think that's what this does, and this is what we should be doing on our development applications. So thank you, Councillor Ashwin.
Thank you. Councillor Good, thank you. Then Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Mayor Lyons. Yes, I note Councillor Williamson's comment there. It was a question I was actually going to ask the Director. Actually, the word just escaped me, but enforcement, I think it was. Normally, I'm not supportive of motions or amendments where it's sort of an effort rather than a precise one. So can the Director give us some advice in terms of how enforcing or how you can make this actually work, or is the wording sufficient to meet the Act?
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think one of the trees, its fate is probably sealed because it is in the future driveway area, but there's another one which is very close to a short-term parking bay. It's close to the curb. It might be possible to retain that with some judicious lopping, but it's going to really depend on an assessment at a technical level of how that's likely to affect the root structure and the weight of it, because it's one of the classic sort of white gum trees. But I think the sentiment in the modified condition allows us to pick up on that. Our guys are onto that stuff in any event, but there's no harm in really publicising that that's a key interest in looking after vegetation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Betts, did you have something? Thank you.
My understanding would be that the planning approval is based on the landscaping having to be designed, etc., to the satisfaction of the city. And my understanding is the city always has a policy of, perhaps not a written policy, but certainly the staff always seek to have as many of mature trees retained anyway. So is this would appear to be simply saying what we're doing already anyway? That would be my assessment. So I'm just wondering whether it's not really just a superfluous amendment. It doesn't do any harm, agreed, but the diagram that was sent out this afternoon would suggest that the two new trees that are planned to be planted would actually form a nicer row of trees rather than the one that's stuck out close to the curb, where it's probably more likely to cause difficulty with lifting the curb and damaging the bitumen, etc. So to me, the two new trees that are planned for there would actually be a better outcome than actually retaining that old tree, and those two new trees they're not actually, or one of those new trees not actually being planted. So I'm a little ambivalent at this point as to which I'm going to vote on this, but perhaps could the Director just give some indication as to whether this is actually something that's done anyway?
If you like.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think a point that I didn't make was that we did receive an arborist's report to go with the assessment of the existing trees and vegetation there. So there is some technical background behind that. The ultimate design may well end up just as it is at the moment, but the alternate of the extra words might give us an opportunity to go back to the arborist and have a crack to see whether some innovative solution might be able to be proposed. There is inevitably additional maintenance issues if you have a tree right hard up against the curb like that. So I've got some sympathy for the proponent from that point of view. And I also have to say, as objectively as I can, it wouldn't be a die in the ditch issue, if you like, in terms of determining the approval, because it really is a minor detail. They're doing a lot more for the site than the cost of losing these 2 trees out the front.
And just say that I was of the same thinking of you, Councillor Ashwin. I went for a drive there today and had a look, and I do not believe that either of those trees could be retained with how that driveway is going to go around, because one of the trees is like that, and you'd have to lop that off, which would make that just standing there by itself, which would be not a visually appealing thing, and it wouldn't be very healthy for the tree either. Also not in favour of, I know we're saying preferable, but it's not really an enforceable thing, and we would always prefer to retain trees, but in this case, and I don't want to deter you from doing this in the future, because I think it's very good that you've brought this up, but for this particular one, having looked at the site and looked at the trees, I don't think that they can be retained. As the Director has already said, the staff have looked at it, so at this stage I won't be supporting this amendment based on that. Any further debate or questions? Councillor Ashwin, you have a right to respond and close the debate if you would like to do that. No, okay, thank you. Councillors, if you could please cast your vote on the amendment. That amendment has been lost. So we'll go back to the original item. Is there any further questions or debate on the original item? Right, councillors, will you please cast your vote? Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to 13.2.2, the development application for the fast food outlet, food truck parking and alfresco dining at 2254 Lot 102 Albany Highway, Gosnells. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Good to move that, Councillor Williamson to second that. Councillor Good, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lyons. Councillors, I'm really excited about this one. I think it's fantastic to have a fast food outlet and food truck parking and alfresco dining, the vitality it will bring to the city of Gosnells. Yeah, very, very supportive, and it really enlivens the area up. And 6 p.m, I think, to 9 p.m, 7 days a week, that is just simply marvellous. So strongly support it, and hope there can be some more. I just think it's a great idea. So I'm supportive.
Thank you, Councillor Good. Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Williamson, did you second that? Oh, sorry, Councillor Williamson.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that I support Councillor Good's comments. I think to have people out and about on that street front between 6 and 9 p.m. is definitely going to be a benefit for our community, and the planning application meets all the planning requirements. I think this is a definite positive for the area and would like to see more of this happening. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Sorry, sir. Sorry. Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Good's excitement is always contagious, and thank you, David, Councillor Good, and Councillor Williamson for your comments. I think we need to go one step further as far as a restriction is being imposed on this, and so I would like to propose an amendment to the motion. I want to propose that the food truck, the staff recommendation be amended by inclusion of the following additional condition: that the food truck is not to remain on site outside of the approved hours of operation. For the following reason, leaving the food truck on site at all times has the potential to detract from the amenity of the area.
Mayor, I'm happy to second that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think there's a real potential here that might have not been highlighted through the normal process, that if this truck is to remain there, that it could detract from the area. We could see collection of litter beneath or, you know, the attraction of undesirable activity there as well. So I think this is a necessary safe measure to put in place to make sure that that area, the amenity is maintained.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is there any further? Councillor Betts, thank you.
I just have a question regarding the amendment. As I understand that, that means that the hours that it's allowed to operate, he's not allowed to arrive more than perhaps 5 minutes earlier than, and how does he set up his truck to be ready open for business? So I really think there needs to be some flexibility allowed, if the owner, who presumably operates the store next to it as part of that, I can't think what the shop's called there, if he drives that truck from home and he wants to do some work early in the morning, pulls in there at 7 o'clock in the morning, but it's not supposed to be open until 9 or whatever time it is, he's breaking the law. So I'm just wondering how can we get around this? I appreciate the sentiment. You don't want a truck parked there with flat tyres eventually and looking tired and rubbish around it. But by the same token, I think we kind of need to allow some flexibility around that.
Councillor Betts, would you would you think that there'd be an amendment to the amendment that allows an extra 30 minutes each side of it, or are you thinking something different? An hour?
I think an hour, please. Yeah.
Would you be willing to change your amendment to, say,
Very
1
happy
hour
with that,
either
Madam
side?
Mayor. Yeah.
Okay. So that the food truck is not to remain on site outside of 1 hour before or 1 hour after the hours of operation that have been approved? The food truck is not to remain on the site outside of the hours of 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. That is to operate from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Yes. You happy with that? Thank you. Question?
Just a question. How would that be enforced? So what does enforcement look like for that business owner? I'm interested in that. Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Director Bradbrook, thank you.
Madam Mayor, it'd be very much the same as we approach compliance with all other development approvals, in that if the owner was not complying with conditions of approval, we would first have a conversation with them to make sure they are aware of their obligations. Ultimately, if they don't comply, they'll probably get an infringement notice, and then if they continue not to comply, they would probably be prosecuted. That would be the ordinary course of events if people don't bring their operations into compliance.
Thank you, Director. Is there any further questions on the amendment? Councillor Baines?
I would like to suggest that we don't have a time limit throughout the day, whereas we just enforce the time limit as after they finish service in the evening, so after 9 or 9:30 p.m, that's when the truck must leave the premises, and it can return the following morning, because as I understand, the truck is owned by the business next door. So if the business owner wants to come to work at 10 a.m. with the truck, it only makes sense that he can leave that in the car park until he wants to prepare for the evening service, rather than have to go home at 4 o'clock to get his truck to come back to the same location. So that we just...
Night restriction.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Sorry, you'd have to put an amendment in for what you would like to do there and put some times on what you're talking, because I understand that you are saying not to have it there during the day, but that would be against what this amendment is suggesting, that it isn't there during the day, and you're saying that you'd want it there, so you'd need to put an amendment up.
Can I amend the amendment to say that the food truck must not remain on site overnight?
Okay.
For example, after 10 p.m.
Sorry. Not entirely. Deputy Mayor Hort, I think what we'll do is we'll deal with your amendment first, and then when we come back to the substantive item, you can put your amendment up at that point. So otherwise, no one has a chance to speak again to your amendment that's already spoken. So we'll come back to your amendment should you foreshadow motion.
I just
guess.
understand the process. So if this amendment doesn't get up, then we would go to councillor Baines, or
If she chose to do that, yes.
Yeah, if this amendment got up, could we also go to councillor Baines?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So on this amendment, is there any further debate or questions on this amendment? Yep.
I've understood you to say, I may have misunderstood, but I understood you to say that if councillor Hort's amendment got up, we could still go to
Yes,
that
that's
one. I
correct.
didn't think we could, because that's limits, that when we made a decision about what the times are, so you can't actually then do that. So it would have to be...
You'd need to vote against this amendment. Yeah, if that's what you don't want to have happen. Deputy Mayor Hort, would you like to close on this amendment?
I really like councillor Baines. I think that's a good amendment. But, there's quite a few people here who probably quite like this one, so interested in their debate. I'm not sure this is the right direction. I quite like where councillor Baines is going with the next one, but I appreciate many may want to vote on this. So that's the close of that debate, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Good.
Can I call a point of order?
What?
Could he just withdraw his amendment if he chooses?
If the second is happy. I second it and I'm not happy. Let's vote on it. Thank you. Seems I'm the only one that wasn't happy. So your amendment has been lost. Councillor Baines, you've got another amendment to come forward now, I believe, which would like to read that you'd like the food truck to be able to come all day and be there all day and just not stay overnight. I don't know what time they open. This is the whole thing. Can I have some wording for what times you would like to have?
So after 10 p.m, and they can return 7 a.m.
Okay, is there a seconder for that?
Madam Mayor, can I move a procedural motion to adjourn for 5 minutes so councillor Baines has some time
Yes,
to
that's
think
a very
about
good idea.
this?
Thank you.
Thank
Do we
you.
need to vote on that procedural motion? I can make the decision. Vote on a 5-minute adjournment to get this wording right. Thank you. Need 3 more people to vote. 2 more people to vote. 3. 2 more to vote on the adjournment, please. Someone hasn't voted. Who? Thank you. That has been carried. We're adjourned for 5 minutes. It defeats the whole purpose. Okay, thank you, councillors. That 5 minutes has expired. So, Councillor Baines, we'll go to you for your amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I, Councillor Baines, propose the following: that the staff recommendation be amended by the inclusion of the following condition. The food truck is not to remain on site after 10 p.m. and until 5 a.m. on the following business day. For the following reasons: leaving the food truck on site at all times has the potential to detract from the amenity of the area, but we also want to allow the food truck to return at a convenient time for the business owners.
I'm going to get a seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Hort's to second that. Councillor Baines, did you want to speak further on that item? Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I think this strikes the right balance. We don't want to be an impost on the owner of the adjacent halal inn grocery and meat. It appears that they open at 6 a.m. in the morning, so this gives them plenty of time to arrive at work, park up the truck and use it later in the day if they need to. Strikes the right balance because we know we're not going to end up with a truck there with, you know, slashed tyres and broken windows or whatever it might be that's detracting from the amenity. It has to be roadworthy, it has to be on the move, and I think this ticks all the boxes. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and congratulations, Councillor Baines, on a well-written amendment.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hort. Is there any further? Councillor Betts, thank you.
Quick question. Does the term business day, does that limit the weekends? Like, does that have a legal meaning? I think the intent of Councillor Baines is that the next day when they do business, but business day, is that Monday to Friday, or is that the business days that he's allowed to operate, just to make sure that we don't accidentally limit that?
I think that supermarket's open every day, but I'll just, yes, so it'd be every day in that particular case.
I think they're open 7 days a week.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to speak against the amendment. I like the idea of not having a food truck sitting in the middle of the city centre or from all day throughout the day for reasons that were previously mentioned with the previous amendment. So I'll be voting against this amendment because I prefer for the food truck to just remain there during the hours of operation with a packed down and set up time frame around each of that. So I'll be speaking against this amendment. Any further debate or questions on this amendment? Councillor Baines, would you like to close? Councillors, if you'd like to cast your vote, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Baines. Your amendment has been carried. We'll put that back with the substantive item now. And is there any debate or questions on the substantive item? No? Councillors, will you please cast your vote? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. Moving on to 13.2.3, the proposed amendment to the Maddington Homestead Outline Development Plan, Lot 9002, Penosa Circle in Maddington. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Good to move this. Is there a seconder? Can I get a seconder? Councillor Adams to second it. Councillor Good? Do you have any debate? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lyons. Look, we had a. First of all, I'm very supportive of the motion. I do understand a number of community concerns and local people, and in terms of issues that have been raised for many, many years. The demolition by neglect was a chronic stain on the area, no doubt about that. But the reason why I have changed my mind, and I'm not aware of what the History and Heritage Group themselves actually think, because we haven't had a meeting about it, but I've changed my mind and support the motion and development. And the reasons are, we had a site visit, and the site visit demonstrated that the new development will greatly improve the site. Matter of fact, it was a really detailed site visit, and I learnt a lot. And one of the other reasons was that the houses for the NDIS will be good for the area and enhance passive surveillance. I quite like their explanation and their sheer level of quality that will be in each of those dwellings. We're talking a massive amount of dollars for a humble space, if you like, but because they're going to be unique for the NDIS. The homestead will be retaining many of the features from the original times, which is a good thing. Of course, there will be good viewing from the site. I thought the site would be limited in its viewing, but I was pleasantly surprised by how much I could see out from both directions, so that was very good to me. and particularly also with the traffic flow management, with the new roads, the pressure on Burslem Drive. But I think the planners have done a good well. Probably the key issue would be it finally delivers on huge improvements to the site. I've been on the History and Heritage Committee for 10 years, and this was probably the big discussion. Literally every meeting was Meanton Homestead non-stop. So to have nothing happen for many years with the owners not doing anything, and we're all getting very despondent, finally to something actually being done. And my view was the money being spent now to activate that site, I think it'll be a huge enhancement. My other view was the fact that the Heritage Council of WA are very much support of this, and of course the legal agreement between the owners and the Heritage Council of WA continues, which will actually protect the city. So overall, a site that's been lacking for years. It was a brilliant example of a building from, I think, 1837 or thereabouts. The history's out there for everybody to read. And the fact that it was demolition by neglect from originally a fire, and then the walls just been crumbling and crumbling bit by bit. So to me, it's been a long time coming to get this homestead rebuilt, and I just think it's the best way of actually doing it. And unfortunately, due to the cost of construction and the cost of actually doing this project, any other developer probably would have walked away some time ago. So I'm suggesting that we approve this based upon it's the best possible solution, and the site visit to me empathised and emphasised, I should say, the value that we could actually obtain. Should there be a cafe/restaurant there, I would really love that indeed. It just added more value. But overall, I think it's a good outcome, and I think we should approve this.
Thank you, Councillor. Good. Deputy Mayor, who seconded that? Sorry, who seconded that? Councillor Adams? No? Deputy Mayor Hort, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I agree with many of the elements that Councillor Goods raised there. The activation, and we see in the plan, there's provisions to make sure that it keeps to the amenity, the heritage amenity of the area and the like, setbacks and all those kinds of things. I think there is going to be a lot of disappointment in the community when they see houses being built on that little plot of land. I remember driving past as a kid, and it was a market garden, and it's certainly quite beautiful now with the outlook there on the heritage space. But I just want to understand what our role in this is in this a little bit better. If we decided we didn't want to put houses there, does the authority really lie with us? Could we really say, no, you can't subdivide that little area, you can't put houses there? I didn't think we could, but Madam Mayor.
And Director Terrelink will add value to your question, I'm sure.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll give it a crack.
We have faith.
If this local development plan amendment fell over, you'd revert to the old framework that was in place, which was really there to facilitate the proposal we had in the past, I think, for the Confucius Association and some associated uses that went with that, which at the end of the day could have ended up with more of a self-contained site, almost a compound-like development. So this will, in effect, be more public in its accessibility just by virtue of the road reserve. And another point that's perhaps worthy of noting is that even though the lots come up to the street boundary, those NDIS houses will be set back from the street boundary. So the view corridor won't just be the new little cul-de-sac road and the verge, but it'll also include the front setback of the NDIS homes. We can look after that at the DA stage to make sure that they have quite an open streetscape as well. So we'll be doing our best to keep that open view back to Burslem.
Thank you, Deputy.
So for that reason, Madam Mayor, I feel a lot more confident and comfortable with this proceeding. I think the alternative is not something that the community wants. I think there's always going to be parts of the community that aren't going to be happy with the number of houses being built there in what's quite a beautiful area. But I'm confident that our city staff will make sure that the DAs for each of those buildings match what the community would expect for a heritage area. So I'm optimistic for the future of this. I think it's exciting to see this finally come together, and it was fantastic that site visit, seeing how much effort and money was going into restoring this important part of Western Australia's heritage. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in support.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've just got something to add to this. I just wanted to touch on a couple of the objections that were mentioned, and that was regarding the realignment of McLaughlin Boulevard, the demolition of the non-heritage listed buildings, and the access and egress from Burslem Road. And I just wanted to clarify that these are all relevant to the previous ODP, and they're not part of what we're considering today. So regardless of the outcome of this, those things will still be in place from the previous ODP. I'm also supportive of the officer's recommendation on this, and I look forward to seeing how they're going to design the complementary buildings as heritage style to actually complement that area, and I'm sure the staff will be looking closely to make sure that those buildings are heritage looking to complement the area. And also, as Deputy Mayor Hort has previously said, the site visit did give us a lot of faith in what they were going to be doing there. And also we've heard tonight that they are in talks with having a cafe being built there. So that would be a great outcome for the city, and I really do hope that that goes ahead. Once again, that is not part of what we're deciding today anyway. We'll be deciding that later down the track, but I am supportive of this going forward. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Betts and then Councillor McDonald. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you said most of what I was going to say. The only extra bit I would say is that having NDIS housing there will actually activate that area. If that area were eventually just to have ordinary houses, it would actually not be as beneficial for the heritage precinct in terms of having a cafe or anything there. But having NDIS, which facility, that would generate a lot more activity, and also I think expose more people to that heritage site. So I think it's a really positive thing to have that type of housing on that corner of the block.
Councillor McDonald, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to just echo everything that's been said in support of the recommendations as a co-committee on the History and Heritage Committee, along with Councillor Good. I didn't want to sit here mute. It may well have been, people might have been interested in my view, and I am in support, and at the same time I would like to acknowledge the earlier speaker, who's a very passionate in respect of the heritage of the city, and hope that he can feel confident that we are well informed in regard to our submissions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any further questions or debate on this item? Councillor Williamson, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a question through you. In relation to the speaker, Mr Newman, mentioning about the medical centre, could I get some clarity around how that is involved, and if this was approved, what the next site would be used for and what controls we have over that?
Thank you, and I'll get Director Terrelink to respond to you. Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I was just going to the recommendation. The proposal is to actually remove the reference to medical centre from the ODP. So there was a reference to medical centre in the ODP that's in place at the moment, which related to some of the care activities that were at the time around 2015 proposed to occur on this site, but they're no longer proposed to occur.
Thank you. Councillor Lloyd, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, what, if anything, is in place to stop the developer leaving the heritage area incomplete after having such a long history of non-compliance?
Agreement with the Heritage Council of WA, but I will ask the Director to respond in a more technical manner.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. It's referred to as a heritage agreement with Heritage Council, but I think Heritage Council really have them over a barrel in terms of what they require to be delivered on that land. So it's more of an obligation that the developer has taken on to restore that building to a standard that Heritage Council approve of. And for those that went to the site, you would have heard stories about them finding bricks from the 1840s and 50s to incorporate into the new works, and they're going to that level of detail. That's all due to the tight stipulations from Heritage Council WA.
Thank you. Any further questions or debate on this item? To move this? Councillor Good, would you like to close?
Nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you, councillors. If you could please cast your vote. Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to 13.4.1, the History and Heritage Advisory Group meeting on the 5th of October 2023. Councillor Good to move that, Councillor McDonald to second that. Councillor Good, do you want to speak to this item?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. Just want to make sure my microphone was on. I wasn't quite hearing it. On this particular item, the meeting, I rarely actually have to speak because the minutes are normally self-explanatory, but this one I will because I think I've done, roughly the 10 years that I've been on council on this advisory group, and just want to reflect on the fact that we've done some really good work, and I must congratulate Director Blake for some of the fantastic work you've done, particularly with the activation of the museum, the Wilkinson Homestead. Great work. It's just been brilliant to see that's been, even the fact that there's a sign on the roundabout on Fremantle Road. I'm not sure what year you did that, wasn't that long ago, but it's just the fact of activating that centre. The garden that's being done, it's just nice work being done. And of course, we've just voted on the Manton Homestead, and as I said, it's probably been part of our agenda every month for the last 10 years that I know of being on the advisory group. Again, great work. And of course, congratulations, Mayor Lyons, on the fact of receiving the award on behalf of the city for the Ghost Walks. Again, absolutely marvellous to get that. And I'm not sure the exact year, but I think it was the early 1990s when it first started, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that was just great to get it reactivated. Another award, I think the first award was around about 2003 from memory, but again, I stand to be corrected. The other thing, of course, which we've done was the Tom Bateman House, in terms of made that really sustainable. It's now used. It was derelict. It was just horrible. And that is a fantastic addition to the history and heritage of the city of Gosnells. So just wanted to say well done and thank you very much for all that. The only sad note, the only pessimistic note, I'm looking directly at you, Director Blake, because for those who don't know, the Gosnells story was written by Gil MacDonald and another co-author that came out in 1988. It's time for an update. And I know we missed the boat a couple of years ago, but one day it'd be good to get the Gosnells story updated. For those who haven't read it, it's a sensational book of history. And I think I've read every page 5 times, but it's just time for an update. That's all. Thank you.
Councillor Good. Councillor McDonald, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to draw council's attention to the proposed action contained within the agenda item, which deals with the process of the appointment of the presiding member.
Next item.
Sorry?
It's in the next item. The next item number is dealing with the deputies.
I wasn't dealing with the deputies.
Oh, sorry.
So
No, this one, the next item, 13.4.2, is for the appointment of the presiding member and the deputy member.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. I'll let you get there. Any more on 13.4.1? Thank you, Councillor.
I just wanted to give a nod through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Good, who spent a very long time on that advisory group. He mentioned it already, but I was going to say something, but I'll just back up what he said. He's been on the group a long time, and I don't think he's on it anymore. So kudos for holding the fort there and overseeing so much hard work done there, Councillor Good.
Thank you. Before I go ahead with any further, Councillor McDonald, it does mention this in the discussion of proposed actions, but the actual item for implementing those 2 positions is the next item. If you want to speak to it, you can probably do it in this, but if you wanted to add more, it might be in the next item. So it's up to you what you would like to do in that space.
No, thank you for clarifying that. My apologies.
That's right. Because I had to take a second look too and think which one it was in, but yes, it is in that one. So any further discussion on 13.4.1? Councillors, if you'd like to cast your vote, thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to 13.4.2, History and Heritage Advisory Group endorsement of membership and appointment of presiding member and deputy presiding member. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor McDonald to move it and Councillor Baines to second it. Councillor McDonald, would you like to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to endorse the proposed for Pat Morris, JP, to continue in her role, as I do serve on that committee, and find that she does an amazing job as the chair and is very well organised. And it's lovely that she's decided to continue in that, put her name up again, and so I fully endorse that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Good, thank you.
Is this where I can nominate Councillor McDonald to be the Deputy Chair, if he accepts nomination?
Yes, I accept that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations for Deputy Chair? No? Then is there any further debate on this item? No, councillors, if you would like to vote on this, the council in accordance with policy 3.3.5, History and Heritage Advisory Group, terms of reference appoints Mrs Patricia Morris as presiding member and Councillor Kevin McDonald as deputy presiding member of the History and Heritage Advisory Group. Councillors, please cast your vote. You've already done it. Thank you. Just waiting on me. Thank you. That has been carried. The next item is 13.4.3, the community grants for September round 2023. Can I get a mover, Councillor Zhang, to move that and Deputy Mayor Hort to second that? Any questions on this item, councillors? Debate? No? Councillors, please cast. Is that from last time? Thank you. Thought they already voted again. Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. Moving on to item, that's been carried, yes, clear that. Moving on to 13.5.1, financial activity statement for September 2023. Can I get a mover for this, Deputy Mayor Hort, seconded by Councillor McDonald? Is there any questions or debate on this item? No, councillors, if you could please cast your vote. Thank you, that has been carried. Item number 13.5.2, the payment of accounts for September 2023. Can I get a mover? Deputy Mayor Hort, Councillor Baines, thank you. Any questions on this or debate? No? Councillors, please cast your vote. Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to 13.5.3, the City of Gosnells Cat Amendment Local Law 2023. Can I get a mover? Deputy Mayor Hort to move this, seconded by Councillor Adams to second it. Deputy Mayor Hort, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think everyone's sick of hearing me talk about cats in the chamber, so I will keep it brief. I will say that it's been a journey, and it's been great to engage with the community over this last 2-3 years about what they expect when it comes to how we engage with cats and cat owners, and I've certainly learnt a lot in that process as well. So it's nice to see a law come out that reflects our extensive community consultation, and I want to congratulate the staff for that work. I will say, I will ask a couple of questions because I think there's a few things that just need to be covered, but I will say that we know that quendas are returning to the Tom Bateman wetlands. I've had people in that area contact me recently, which is very exciting, and we want to preserve that and make sure that we don't have cats, which are their number one predator, eating them. We have heard rumours of Chudich up in the regional park, Banyola, I think it's pronounced, a regional park, which is exciting as well, and hopefully a sign of some of the positive work that's been happening with cat trapping and the like. I think there's a long way to go, but there's a real happy medium that we need to strike to make sure that people can still have cats. We can support them to be responsible cat owners, but at the same time, we are the stewards of really, really very important assets, including the flora and fauna of our area. So looking forward to this coming together. I'm obviously in support of it, but one thing I do want to ask through you, Madam Mayor, there are countless, probably hundreds of cat foster carers in our city who look after what is essentially a huge number of cats that need rehoming. What provisions are in this law and in the state legislation that support those foster cat carers to look after the cats, and are we preventing them from continuing to do the good work that they do? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I'll get the Director for Business Services to respond. Thank you. Mr Bradbrook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Hort has raised the issue of foster carers for cats previously and trying to deal with that in the local law. The cat regulations actually provide or have provisions around foster caring for cats, so they exempt people who are caring for cats from the requirement to register those cats. And there's also regulations that prescribe organisations that are exempt from the limit on cat numbers. So that would mean that that's places like Cat Haven, the RSPCA, who a lot of these people will foster cats through, who are exempt from the limit on cat numbers. So that means they can effectively keep up to 3 times the number of cats that we impose as a limit. So if we're talking 2 here, then people who are foster caring for cats could care for up to 6 cats at a time. And given that those issues are dealt with in the regulations, it's unlikely that we could then prescribe additional or different provisions to exempt other organisations in our local law from the provisions of registration and cat fostering. But what we probably can do, and we will need to look at a policy around applications to keep more than 2 cats, and through that process we can certainly make it easier for anyone who is fostering a cat through an organisation other than those listed in the regulations. We can probably make it easier for those people to get those approvals to keep excess cats so that they can care for cats that need a new home.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very happy with that response because I think it, again, like I said before, helps us strike the right balance in the city. How do we manage these cats, but at the same time need to acknowledge that we do have a cat problem statewide, and many of our residents play an important role in managing that. So, councillors, I think we strike the right balance now. It's been many years in the making, but I think I'm certainly in support of this and hopeful that it will get up and we can take the next steps towards making this our cat local law.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further debate on Councillor Baines? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to propose an amendment. So I, Councillor Baines, propose the following: that the staff recommendation be amended by the inclusion of the following additional part. That Council requests the CEO to consider options for conducting workshops on how to construct a cat enclosure, which may include approaching local organisations such as the Gosnells Men's Shed and Gosnells Women's Collective to ascertain their interest in assisting with these events. For the following reasons: the local law includes a requirement for people living in specified areas to have an enclosure on their properties that can contain their cats. It would be useful if people wanting to construct an enclosure could be shown how to do this in a cost-effective way. This could be something the Gosnells Men's Shed or Gosnells Women Collective may be able to assist with.
Councillor Mayor Hort's happy to second that. Would you like to speak further, Councillor Baines?
Thank you. I am aware that there are many DIY videos on the internet. However, some of our residents might actually prefer some hands-on assistance, and I feel that a collaboration with the Gosnells Men's Shed or Gosnells Women Collective could be really beneficial for both parties. Therefore, I ask Council to please support this amendment to demonstrate to the community that we realise that this local law will likely require some action by cat owners, but we hope to ease the process.
Thank you, Councillor Baines has seconded. You want to speak to that? I'm happy to. Anyone else would like to speak to this item? Happy to support your amendment. I think something like this would be a good way to bring community together, as well as delivering the message that there are new rules around keeping your cats contained. So by engaging community members to participate with that, whether it be the Men's Shed or the Women's Collective or one of the local high schools or Lidlow or whoever, I think there is some room to do that and work a feasible way out to build cat enclosures whilst promoting to the community that there is a new cat law in town, should this pass. Thank you, councillors. Is there any further debate on this item? Okay, would you like to close, Deputy Mayor? Oh, the amendment, yes, getting ahead of myself. Vote on the amendment. Would you like to close on the amendment, Councillor? Getting ahead of myself. Thank you. If you'd like to cast your vote on the amendment, thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. We'll put it back with the original item. Any further debate on the original item? Would you like to close? Your shining moment, you don't want to close. Thank you, councillors. If you'd like to cast your vote, thank you. Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. Moving on to 13.5.4, the budget variation for the reimbursement from the Southern River Precinct 3E Outline Development Reserve. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Zhang's happy to move that. Councillor Good's happy to second that. Is there any debate or questions on this item? No? Councillors, would you please cast your vote? Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. If nobody is there intention to speak to any of the next three items? Otherwise, I'll move them all together. Anybody object to that? So we're moving item 13.5.6, 13.5.7 and 13.58 together. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor McDonald, happy to move that. Councillor Williamson to second that.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Did you miss 13.5.5?
Wow, I did. Thank you so much. I'm going to put the next four together. No, we're going to deal with the tender for the youth plaza separately, I think. Is anybody... Yes, I think we might deal with that separately and then move the next three. So 13.5.5, can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Williamson to move that. Councillor Good to second that. Councillor Williamson, did you want to speak to this item? Councillor Good? No? Okay, please cast your votes. Thank you. If there's no further debate, no. Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. If there are no objections, I'll move 13.5.6, 13.5.7 and 13.5.8 together. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor McDonald to move that. Councillor Zhang to second that. Councillors, if you please cast your vote. Thank you. That has been carried. There are no motions of which previous notice has been given, no urgent business, no confidential matters. I declare the meeting closed at 8:23. Thank you very much, everyone.